I'm so thankful for 18 incredible years of racing in NASCAR. The sport has been good to me and has allowed me to do something I truly love. I showed up chasing a dream and achieved more than I ever thought possible. I'm looking forward to next season and celebrating what will be my last year as a full-time NASCAR Cup driver.
Down the backstretch he goes. Driveways, Jimmie Johnson. By a fin. Jimmie Johnson has won the Daytona 500. Jimmie Johnson pulling away.
I know what this team is capable of, and I hope 2020 is one of the best yet.
Fuck. Man. I didn't think I'd be making this video until January 2020. But Jimmie Johnson threw a curveball at us 2 months early in advance. Fuck. I'll be honest here. I knew this was coming. I've known since 2017, when he signed his extension, that 2020 was going to be Jimmie Johnson's last season in NASCAR. I've always known it. Don't get it wrong. I knew this day was coming. I knew this announcement was coming. I didn't think it'd come for another couple months. But yeah, as you saw in the video to open this up, Jimmie Johnson is officially retiring from full-time racing in the Cup Series in after 2020. So after 2020, he will no longer drive the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. I'll be honest, this is a tough one for me to take. Like, Jeff Gordon's was tough when Jeff Gordon announced his retirement, but Jimmie Johnson's a lot harder. Because for Jimmie Johnson, he was my favorite driver growing up as a kid when I was watching NASCAR growing up. He was someone I always idolized. Throughout my entire childhood, I always viewed Jimmie Johnson as my role model. And, he's retiring at the end of 2020. This is a tough one for me to take. Like, so tough. I have a lot of mixed emotions right now about this. But, I knew this was coming for a while, It's obvious that, Jimmie Johnson, his best days of racing are well behind him. And you know what? I think it is the right time for him to retire. I mean, when Jimmie Johnson does retire at the end of 2020, he will be 45, which is the same age that Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart both retired at, was 45 years old. So yeah, Jimmie's around that range. Like, most drivers' average age when they retire, it's around the mid-40s. We usually get a couple surprises, like Carl Edwards retiring in his late 30s at age 38, and, Casey Kanan and Dale Jr. in their early 40s. Like, we may get a couple surprises, but usually age 45 is usually when a lot of top Cup drivers retire. That's most of the time. But yeah, I'll be honest here, Jimmie Johnson, we all know his resume. 2-time Daytona 500 winner, 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion. Of course, the only NASCAR driver to win 5 consecutive Cup Series championships from 2006 to 2010. And of course, 83 career wins in NASCAR. I think that's 6 all-time. 6 all-time. He's one behind Cale Yarborough and Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip for 4th. Like, if Jimmie gets 2 more wins, he passes both of them to get the 4th all-time in the wins list. And I do think in 2020, Jimmie Johnson's going to win a race. I think Jimmie's going to get a win. I don't see how he goes winless 3 years in a row. I think the fact that he went winless 2 years in a row is really saying something. But I think part of Jimmie Johnson's struggles as of late, I think part of it has to do with this package. This aero package. with a lot of downforce, because usually Jimmie Johnson always prefers his cars to be loose so that he can be more aggressive and, go faster. But, just Jimmie Johnson's driving style does not work with this package. It just does not work well with him, and I think we saw it this year when he missed a chase for the first time in his career, because he never really got it to click. Even in 2018, it didn't look like it was clicking. Occasionally. It only clicked occasionally in 2018. 2019, it wasn't really clicking at all. And it really showed on the track. Like, man. But yeah. And honestly, you look at what Jimmie Johnson, with his entire career accomplishments, he's lived up to his end of the bargain at Hendrick, He's won Hendrick multiple titles. He made Hendrick Motorsports a dynasty. Oops, sorry about that, folks. Just for some reason my camera stopped recording there for a second. So, yeah, that was weird. But anyway, as I was saying, he's helped Hendrick turn Hendrick Motorsports into a dynasty. Like, say what you want about Jimmie Johnson's current run, Jimmie Johnson will still go down as the greatest NASCAR driver in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Like, honestly, I'd say he's the better driver than Kyle Busch in the 2010s. Because, yeah, Kyle Busch may have won more races than Jimmie in the 2010s, but Jimmie Johnson did win more championships in this decade than Kyle Busch did. Kyle Busch only had 2 championships in this decade. Jimmie Johnson had 3. Most by a driver in this decade. So yeah, that's the debate. Who was the better driver this decade? Jimmie Johnson or Kyle Busch? I mean, if you want to go by career wins and Cup Series, you'd say Kyle Busch. But if we do it by championships, which is what I view the most in this argument, I go by championships. And the fact is, Jimmie Johnson won the most championships this decade with 3 to Kyle Busch's 2. So yeah, that will be the great debate. Who was the better driver in 2010s, Jimmie Johnson or Kyle Busch? Let the debate begin. But yeah, he'll go down as one of the great drivers in NASCAR history. Easily one of the greatest. I mean, winning 5 straight championships is no easy feat. I mean, look in auto racing, in Formula 1, we've only had 2 instances of a driver winning 5 straight championships. Those being Juan Manuel Fangio and Michael Schumacher. Of course, Montreal Canadiens won 5 Stanley Cups in a row. Yankees won 5 World Series in a row. How many goddamn times? The Celtics won 8 straight NBA titles. And then you got Jimmie Johnson's championship streak. And you also, yeah, that just tells you where Jimmie Johnson's 5 straight titles are in the sports realm. Jimmie Johnson is a true legend. Easily will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Of course, Jimmie Johnson, this would, of course, be, I think it would be his 19th or 8th, I think it's 19th full season. Jimmie's been racing full-time since 2002. And you know what, what Jimmie Johnson's accomplished in his career at this point, you know what? I think he's picking the perfect time to go out. It'll officially, because, 2021 is supposed to be a new era of NASCAR coming, and it would make perfect sense to have a legend retire to end one era. And it would perfectly start a new era. Because there's that old saying, when one era ends, another one begins. So yeah, once Jimmie Johnson's era ends, a new one begins. Who will take the charge of that era? Well, we'll find out in the coming years. But, yeah. But anyway, as I'm saying, what Jimmie Johnson's accomplished in his career, he's accomplished enough to where, he really benefits nothing staying in NASCAR any longer. Like, he's won multiple championships, tied for the most championships by a driver all time with Richard Petty and Dale Sr. I mean, Dale Earnhardt Sr. Should call him Dale. But, yeah. So, yeah, Jimmie Johnson, of course, one of the legends of NASCAR. Like, if NASCAR had a Mount Rushmore, Jimmie Johnson would easily be on it hands fucking down. But, yeah. So, yeah, of course, I'm not sure what Jimmie Johnson's going to do once he retires from full-time racing. if Jimmie Johnson's gonna, stay at home, spend more time with his family, and his 2 daughters. Of course, or I imagine he's gonna do a lot of work with his foundation, the Jimmie Johnson Foundation. I don't know if he would go into broadcasting or become an analyst. Now, that's an interesting one. That's up in the air. Or maybe he'll try and start his own race team. It's going to be interesting. We'll find out soon in the coming months what Jimmie Johnson's post-retirement plans are when he hangs up the helmet and the fire suit for the final time. But yeah, and now the great debate next begins is who takes the 48 car at Hendrick Motorsports in 2021. We're already talking about 2021 silly season. And we're still not done with the 2020 silly season. Because we're only 3 days into the off season, and we get this bombshell of an announcement. It's just crazy. It's gonna be 2021 before we know it. Because time can fly so fast. But yeah. So yeah, I imagine, for Junior Motorsports, 2020 is gonna be a big year for everyone at Junior Motorsports. As they're all pretty much going to be trying out for the 48 car. I'll be honest here, out of everyone there, the only name in Xfinity from Junior Motorsports I would even remotely consider for the 48 car would be Justin Allgaier. Michael Annett is a complete bust, is not that good. He had a lucky win at Daytona last year. And Noah Gragson, he's looking like a complete bust. Justin Allgaier would be the only name from Xfinity I would consider to take the 48 car. But I think the one rumor I've heard for the 48 car, I've heard it from a lot of people and some sources. A lot of names are saying Kyle Larson to the 48 car. Now, Larson would be an interesting one. I feel like Larson would be the type of driver you'd sign to complete your rebuild and say, hey, we're officially back. And I think Hendrick's rebuild is almost complete. Because, this is year 3 of the rebuild. Most of the young core of Byron, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman, they're going to already have at least now 3 years of Cup experience. This will be Byron's 3rd season. And, the rebuild took a really good step forward last year with all 3 Hendrick cars not only making the chase. Yeah, not only those 3 making the chase, but those 3 making it to the round of 12. And actually, I did check some real quick. I checked where all the Hendrick drivers finished in points. I think a lot of you would be shocked to hear that the highest finishing Hendrick driver in points this year was William Byron. He finished higher than Chase Elliott mainly because Chase had those 3 straight mechanical failures in round 3 that allowed William Byron to catch up in the points. So yeah. But I think this year, though, Byron will need to win a race to really help this rebuild. To really show it's going in a good direction. That's the next step. But I feel like Larson, it would be the move to say, hey, the rebuild's complete, we're back. I could see Larson in the 48, it would mean Larson stays in the Chevy camp. Because I think 2020 is going to be Larson's last year in Chip Ganassi. Because I've always said it here, I still stand with it. I feel like Chip Ganassi is holding Kyle Larson back. From being good to being great. Or hell, to being even elite. I've been calling this for release for years. I've been asking for Larson to be released from Chip Ganassi to go to a real team. Because I'll be real here. Larson will never make the Final Four with Chip Ganassi. Hell, Larson will never win a championship with Chip Ganassi. Chip Ganassi is going to forever hold Kyle Larson back. Until Chip Ganassi does the right thing and lets Larson go. I think Larson needs to go to a top team. Hendrick Motorsports will be a good fit. I'd also say Stewart-Haas Racing would also be a good fit for Larson. But yeah, in terms of who I think will take the 48 car in 2021, the 2 names I have in the hat, I throw into the hat at the moment, would be Kyle Larson or Justin Allgaier. I think it's very likely it's going to be one of those 2. I'm thinking it's going to lean maybe more toward Larson. I think Larson has a higher ceiling than Justin Allgaier. You know, and plus it would make more sense for Larson to come to Hendrick Motorsports, since Kyle Larson grew up being a Jeff Gordon fan his whole life, and Hendrick Motorsports happens to be the team Jeff Gordon raced for Jeff's entire career. So for Larson, it would sort of be like living a childhood dream, racing for your boyhood hero's favorite team. So I mean, it would make sense for Larson to go to the 48 and go to Hendrick Motorsports. You know, it's going to be an interesting 2021 silly season of who takes the 48. Going to be very interesting. But yeah, you know, I just thought I'd give my thoughts on the announcement of Jimmie Johnson retiring. All I say is, hopefully Jimmie Johnson can get a win in his last year. That would be really cool to see. And yes, this pretty much does confirm I will be at the August Michigan race this year, because that will be Jimmie Johnson's final race at Michigan International Speedway, barring no major health concerns or injuries. Hopefully Jimmie can make the chase this year too. But yeah, and I think now with this announcement, I think it's pretty obvious now who's going to get the pole for the 2020 Daytona 500. Yeah, remember a couple days ago when I said don't be surprised if the front row is Joe Gibbs Racing drivers? Scratch it, I take that back. I think you got a good idea of who the 2020 Daytona 500 pole sitter is going to be. I mean, out of all the possible storylines, it would make the most sense. And it would probably get you a shitload of ratings. Because remember, you look at NASCAR ratings, it's not that good. And NASCAR wants to get their ratings up whatever the cost. So, yeah, I think it's obvious who's getting the pole for the 500. I mean, I would be shocked if Jimmie Johnson didn't get the pole. But yeah, I think I got on enough with this. Just thought I'd give my thoughts on this announcement. But yeah, that's all I gotta say, folks. Hope everyone's a great day, and yeah, peace out. And Jimmie Johnson, have a happy retirement, man. You had a great career. Settle down. Enjoy some time with your family after 2020. You earned it.